yours, hoes. I'm on my own shit.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to my podcast, Curated, Relevance. It's your girl B. back here another week, another episode. Today I got me an Americano espresso, with a double shot of espresso, child. You really know you get into the you crack the realm of adulthood when you just start to just drink your coffee, no cream, no sugar, no nothing. Just give me some coffee, some fresh pot of Joe, the strongest you can find, and give me a double shot of espresso. Child, for those of you who don't know me, even if you do know me, I really don't sleep. I don't sleep that many hours, and I don't sleep normal hours. I do sleep. I do get good rest, and I love me a good nap in the middle of the day these days, just for 30 minutes, 20 minutes. In the evening around 6 o'clock, take me an hour and then get back to whatever it is that I'm working on, and then have my 4 to 5 hours at night. But either way, child, and you need that double shot of espresso these days. And child, the cream and the sugar just takes it down. You don't need no accessories to this coffee. So that's how I feel I cracked the realm of adulthood, child. I said, okay, I used to be a coffee with my cream and sugar type of person, but now these days I just give me a double shot of espresso. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. So anyway, let's get back into it. So let's get a lot went on this week, child. We got Joe Biden. As we know, if you've been not under the rock, under the pineapple, under the sea, you will know now that Joe Biden is our new president-elect, along with my good sis. And when I say sis, I mean sis, Kamala Harris, who has accomplished so many firsts with this feat. Let's start off by saying she's the first woman vice president. Wow. It's been a long time coming, because before we know it's been a white male-dominated space. And then she's the first emphasis on black woman vice president. And then you have her being the first South Asian American, because she's a mixed woman as well. And she's also an HBCU alum, so shout out to black colleges and universities out there. She went to Howard, just the pinnacle of black womanhood and leadership, paving the way, bridging gaps, and making waves. I love to see it, and that's my 2020 election roundabout in summary from there, because a lot of us are just excited to get 45 out the White House. He's gonna be going out kicking and screaming, child. He's such a drama queen, such a reality star. That's why I say everybody's like, oh, I don't know, what you think he's gonna concede, you think he's gonna go out amicably. Child, he's a reality star. Everything has to go out kicking and screaming. It has to be a little drama and flair, child. We don't expect much from him. So either way, I'm just shouting out the new regime coming in and getting to work, because we're going to be on your head, Miss Mamas, period. But let's celebrate the win and the end of idiocy in the White House, period. And what I wanted to get into, just for some kicks and giggles, but also to give context until we're going to get into a little bit later in the podcast. Because of course, with any big announcement, there's going to be some controversy and a lot of scandals and people saying a lot of things, and a lot of celebrities having a lot of big and loud things to say, child, because they always got something to say. So I just wanted to get into the breakdown of the demographics for the turnout of this 2020 election, to put some context into some things. So according to NewYorkTimes.com, the national exit polls, how different groups voted. This was last updated, I believe, on the 3rd. I think they made some updates since then, so we'll just count this from the 3rd. Okay, so I want to go in age, and then I want to go in racial and ethnic heritage, just to give us some context. You'll see where I'm going with this. So for age, I just want to say, shout out to speaking of Gen Zs and millennials, shout out to us, the 1829 folks, demographic, voted, 60% of us voted for Joseph R. Biden, leading the demographic breakdown of votes in that category for the new president-elect. So shout out to us for making that impact, being on the front lines, being on social media, being a part of the conversation, shaking some tables and getting the turnout that we so desired. Because, as we know, our demographic of folks are among the more progressive of the age demos, naturally so. Right? And then second in command is the 30 to 44-year-olds. Those are the folks in my mom's age demo. She's 43 years old. And 52, a little over half of those folks voted for the Democrats, Joseph R. Biden, to get 45 out the presidency, because this presidency wasn't so Democrat-Republican. It was more so like, let's get this idiocy out of the White House, this crazy, divisive, chaotic, unintelligent, just all of the things that you could think of. Let's get that out, this negative, let's get that out of the White House. And that's what it was about, because this thing was down to morals and ethics, right? I think this more so election was, of course, policies and things like that, but it was more so a culmination of things. And I think that's why there was so much passion from folks on both ends, but especially on the Democratic end. And even the folks that were Republican previously, who in large waves decided to vote Democrat just to get 45 out the White House, it just really showed you the nature of our nation and the things that we really needed to do to make a change. And I think that's why it was so much more beyond party. This was about a lot of other very personal things for a large demographic of folks. So this again, so a lot of this, keep this in context of that premise. So 52% of the 30 to 44 age demo, again, that's my mom's demo, voted Democrat. And then as we get older, the demographics, the percentage voting for Joe Biden decreased, with 45 to 64 voting less than 50%. Donald Trump being the more favorable presidential candidate for those folks, just by vote. And 65 or older, 47%, so even less. So pretty much the demographics scaled down percentage-wise as you got older. So that's very, very, very telling about a lot of things. So for those of you that have a lot of things to say about young folks and the Gen Z and the young millennials and the millennial age demo, I have to say, you probably got a whole big old foot in your mouth, because we showed up and showed out. So going off the back of the election and the president-elect and vice president getting into the White House now and getting 45 out, I really wanted to get into the racial and gender ethnic heritage breakdown, according to NewYorkTimes.com, of the voter turnout for this 2020 election, in conjunction with even Longoria statements that we're going to get into next to give you all some context. Let's get into it. So according to NewYorkTimes.com, white men, starting off with white men, 38% voted Democrat for Joe Biden and 61% in favor of Donald Trump. Obviously, that was the winning vote for that demographic for Donald Trump. That's not surprising, so we can move on. White women voted 44% Joe Biden, 55% in favor of Donald Trump. And then again, this is not surprising. However, it's very, very disturbing. So it feels like it's giving me very one and two white women voted for Donald Trump. And I think, again, this conversation is not necessarily about Dems versus Republicans, because in a normal society, if we can give normalcy to this society at all, but in a normal society, for me, I'm very much so, I understand policies on both ends, and there's some things I can extract from both ends that I can agree with and find value in different fronts. However, I think, I take a more liberal approach to a lot of things, and I definitely was a Bernie Sanders advocate for obvious reasons, and a lot of people in my age demo were. But we rallied around Joe Biden at large, just because we knew the politics of politics. We know the politics of politics. We knew that we had to rally around the favorable candidate and the candidate that was chosen for the party to get 45 out, because at the end of the day, it was about morals, it was about ethics, and it was about things that it was about rhetoric. It was a divisive rhetoric. It was about violence and inaction and unintelligence and just a lot of misguided communication and information and alternative facts being spewed from the president and the White House, and just a lot of chaotic things, and just a lot of things that just weren't really on par with a more inclusive humanity, society, well-being, community, and environmental well-being part of the world and the society. And I just think that he represented all those things that we like to think that didn't exist, but that exists in large numbers, clearly, with white women and men voting largely in favor of Donald Trump. It's very, very telling, and it's very, very unfortunate, but it's the reality. And I think as long as we start to look at numbers, I think a lot of those folks who like to say, it's mystical thing of things that are going on in the world that have been going on. Everyone's over exaggerating. Oh, that's not. And then you see numbers and you're like, and then you understand what things represent, right? Because Donald Trump reminds me, he's just a symbol of representation of a symbol, a representation of what America really, really is, and the rug that we try to dust a lot of things under. We had Donald Trump helped pull. If anything, we give him credit for. He helped pull up that rug and say, "Oh, look at all those dust mites and crumbs and pretzel bites, and god dang nuts and god dang cookie crumbs under there. Look at that, so dusty. Now it's getting mold and it's ugly and dirty and grimy and all these just nastiness, right? It's all these nasty colors under there and it smells terrible." But the reality is there was so much dirt and he just helped pull a rug. It's for us to uncover and see. And these statistics, things like this I like to get into because it helps us put more context into the way in which we need to start seeing and experiencing the people around us and be more mindful of, so that on all ends, right, from all parties and perspectives, so that we can really start to put ourselves in check and be like, wait, hold on. People might have some merit to the things that they say that they experience in this country at large, systematically and systemically, because we're seeing what people align themselves with, right? And that's that on that. So let's go into black men and black women. So the black community, black men just disappointed me in this election. I mean, they showed up at large in favor of Joe Biden, but it just disappointed me in comparison to black women. We just really showed up and showed out in this election. Black men voted 79%, so less than 80% for Joe Biden, in favor of Joe Biden, but damn near close to 20% for Donald J. Trump. So at 19% they fell in, and that's still too high of a number for me. That's too high of a number for me. But I'll leave it that on that. So basically almost a fifth of black men voted for Donald J. Trump. I just don't understand what they could align with at large over the morals and ethics of things, of society, and okay, at large, but you know, let's put a pin on that because it's the aspire to whiteness for me. Anyway, so black women, as we know, showed up and showed out. 90% of us came on the front lines and put in the action, not just the words, but the actions. 90% in favor of Joe Biden. Less than 10% for Donald J. Trump. So 90%, we came out the largest in numbers, the largest percentage of votes for Joe Biden from black women. Came in at 90%. Solid. We've always paved the way in society at large, across industries, across all platforms, and that's just on period. Stacey Abrams, Mayor Lance Bottom out there in Georgia, just all the black women, particularly and specifically, not singling out, not excluding black men and other people, but we're talking about black women in particularly who came in, showed up and showed out for this election and did what we needed to do to help save this country from nonsense. And that's exactly what we did because we showed up with the largest percentage of us going for Joe Biden at 90%. Again, let's make that clear. So Latino men and Latino women. So 59% of those folks voted toward Joe Biden and 36% of those folks voted to Donald Trump. And then for Latino women, 69% of those folks voted for Joe Biden with 30% for Trump. That's still too high for me. That's what I mean. It's like it's 3-1, and I just think that's, again, well, we know the long history of the aspiration to whiteness and the assimilation and the need and desire and desperation for assimilation to be close in proximity to whiteness as can be, that those and the privilege that those folks have to be able to do so, based on skin color at large and hair texture if they don't fall into the Afro-Latina category. So again, that's just too high for me. And based on all the rhetoric that came from this president, I just don't see how. But again, in the great words of my queen Nicki Minaj, if you see an itty bitty piggy in the market, get a bitch a quarter in the cart, tell her park it. All right, let's move on. So the last category is the other races. So those folks voted 58% in favor of Joe Biden and 38% Trump. So let's get into the tea for today. Eva Longoria has some choice words on MSNBC. She conducted an interview where she essentially made this statement. Let's see what she said. Eva Longoria says on Biden's win, on the question if the Democratic Party understand why it's back in power, she said, of which she said, women of color showed up in big ways. Of course, you saw in Georgia what black women have done, but, you know, Latino women were the real heroines here, beating men in every turnout of every state. Child, it was the real heroines for me, as if to discredit. Because for me, it would have been okay if she was just talking about the Latino vote and the Latino community. But when she prefaced the statement about Latino women being the real heroines with what Black women have done only in Georgia, Black women at large. If we go back to context, this is why I give y'all context. The numbers say 90% of Black women voted in favor of Joe Biden, which was the largest percentage of votes by a demographic. To help get us where we are today and present day with the president-elect and the vice president. So when I tell you that there's a long history of misinformation and this aspire to whiteness and this marginalization of Black women and this dispelling and overlooking of Black women and their contribution at large to society and to the things that we fought for and helped fight for, bring to surface and to justice, it really it don't sit well with me. And this statement just is very, very telling and gives me that weird cringy feeling that I feel sometimes toward folks in the people of color community, which is why I like to make a clear distinction of Black versus people of color, because again, when it's convenient, it's people of color, but when it's not, it's a separation, it's a disassociation, if you will, in an attempt to neutralize themselves and to assimilate themselves into larger society when it's not convenient to align themselves with the struggles of Black people or people of color at large. So I just think that's why I like to make those clear distinctions. This doesn't sit well with me. But Latino women were the real heroines here beating men in every turnout in every state. And I just think it was the real for me. It was the real for me. Again, like we said, Latino women, if we're just talking about the women, is she talking about 69% of those folks voted versus the 90% of Black women. So who was the real heroines? I didn't hear you, sis. I didn't hear you, Miss Mamas. Get that bitch a quarter in a cart, tell her pocket. I don't fuck with pigs like assalamu alaikum. I put them in the field and I let Oscar Mayer bake them. Period. Okay? And that's in the words of Queen Nicki Minaj. And so she gave an apology, of course, because people are read into my good sis. Let me read y'all what some of these folks out here on social media land was saying. Child, they dug into my good sis. So she said, so folks were saying, this is what they say, all you gotta do is search Eva Longoria and people going into it. I'm gonna read y'all two good comments. Eva Longoria and Gina Rodriguez have actually done us a favor here in showing why people of color never benefits Black people. Some minorities will undermine Black achievements whenever they get the chance to do so and sideline us. Never show up, then have the most to say. And what did I just say? Period. And then another by Erica Sanchez. So this person was this was a Latina woman based on her profile. Looks like she's a white Latina woman. Latinas defending Eva Longoria. We have to face the anti-Blackness and erasure of Afro-Latinas in our culture. We don't have to diminish the accomplishments of Black women to elevate ourselves. It's another form of white supremacy. And that's what I mean. It was the prefacing of we know what Black women did in Georgia, but we were the real heroines. It's like that statement right there it dispels all of the apology, because like I said, what I said, people mean what they say the first time that they said it. She meant what she said. She meant what she meant. She said what she said. And that's that on period. And I didn't like that. And I think people overlook those things and like to say, well, let me tell you what she said. This was her apology. I'm so sorry and sad to hear that my comments on MSNBC could be perceived as taking credit from Black women. Well, that's exactly what you did. When you said we know what Black women have done, but as soon as you said the but, we knew you were about to have a counter. As if there was something something to negate. And that's what that means. That's why reading is fundamental, folks, so we can know what people are saying when they say and when they mean it. So then she continues to say, when I said that Latinos were heroines in this election, I simply meant that they turned out in greater numbers and voted more progressively than Latino men. Well, she should have said that. She should have said that and only that. But that's not what she said. She added Black women in there and then put the but and negated and then added the real to put emphasis to what she felt like her demographic did in comparison. And that's just ridiculous to me. And I say this as someone who has roots in Afro-Latina culture, again, with my grandmother's grandmother being from Panama, Afro-Latina woman, and having those roots. And I feel deeply connected to the research and history that I've done on that culture and on her and getting that knowledge, like I talked about in another episode on knowing your history and knowing your roots. So I understand, but it's just ridiculous to me when I hear things like this and then you're trying to clean yourself up. I know a PR statement when I see one. Again, I worked in the space. I understand a PR statement when I see one, but you said what you said. She said, my wording was not clear and I deeply regret that. And then she went on to acknowledge that black women were the backbone of the Democratic Party. And then our good sis Olivia Pope, aka Kerry Washington, or vice versa, she quoted and retweeted her apology, saying that I know Eva like a sister. We have been in many trenches together. She's a fighter for all women. Read below. This is the statement. This is what she meant. This is how she truly feels. Excuse me, Miss Pope, Miss Mamas, we didn't ask you how she truly feels, because what she said the first time is how she truly felt. Because she said what she said. She tried to clean it up, because she realized that it sounded divisive, and it sounded like along the lines of what we black women have heard in comparison to the rhetoric we've heard from Latino women at large throughout time and throughout history. But she said what she said, and I know y'all good friends, and that's good. But Miss Pope, we didn't ask you for this PR cleanup. We didn't ask you for that. We did not ask you for that. This is not ABC land. This is not Shonda land. We did not ask you for this cleanup. Sis said what she said the first time, and we do not need you to come in and chime in on behalf of the black community. So that's that on that. I want y'all to know that this is ridiculous. And I want y'all to start to really think about the way in which you communicate and the way in which you show up in spaces regardless of your demographic, and the way you communicate about things, and dispelling the notion of white supremacy that, is embedded into your mind and your brain and your DNA, that you don't even realize that when you communicate that you are ascribing to that in more ways than one. When you speak toward people in communities that are non-white, or speak toward or about people of color, or communities that are non-white, that are not part of your community as well, and some of the negative rhetoric that you perpetuate when you do so. So even Longoria, no ma'am, Miss Mamas, no ma'am. That's a no ma'am, Miss Mamas for me. Child, moving on. So the next no man Miss Mamas goes to Keke Palmer. Child, I was scrolling on Twitter earlier this week, and I see Keke Palmer is trending a little bit. So I'm like, oh Lord, what am I gonna say? What she do? So child, she has some good choice words to say about EBT cards and the use for healthy food options. So she tweeted this hypothetical, if you will, on Twitter. She said, imagine if your EBT card could only work on healthy items. So she asked for further context on her Instagram. She said, I've been eating extra healthy lately, and I have been sad about my debit card balance because of it. She says, she continues to say healthy food is more expensive for a reason, which is true. It's expensive. It's fresh, good for you, and gives you energy. Bad foods are bad for a reason. They last long and taste good, but because of the tons of sodium, and they aren't expensive because they're honestly not food. Most likely they are food-like products. In any event, imagine if you could get whatever healthy foods you want on your EBT card, like all of the healthy foods could swipe for free. Pretty much a reward for being healthy, but even more so giving homes a break that want to eat healthy but can't afford it. Okay, so that's her full statement. Now here's what folks had to say. Child, somebody said, baby, this topic ain't for you, let it go, Akila. Woo! I love my people on social media land. We know how to dig into people. Black Twitter, black social media is unlike any other. Somebody said, great, now let's increase groceries and food deserts so that disadvantaged communities can actually get the healthy foods. And that's an important thing to note, because folks don't realize food deserts are a big problem in a lot of urban and I guess some rural, but like mostly urban communities. And just to define food deserts for folks who you may not understand what that means, a food desert is an area that has limited access to affordable and nutritious food, in contrast with an area with higher access to supermarkets or vegetable shops with fresh foods. In college and high school, I remember having to do many papers on food deserts and, the lack of access and the limited access, folks and black and brown folks having these communities to fresh foods and healthy foods, which contributes to a lot of health problems at large, etc. I talked about my vegan and vegetarian episode, and the percentage of black folks who are increasingly getting into those spaces and eating those healthier foods. But in contrast to that, there are a lot of food deserts in our urban communities. So folks only got the McDonald's and the chicken, the KFCs and the Popeyes and all those things, and or the CNC markets, or what you call them, the CNC markets, or the local bodega, or things like that. And it's not, it's really not at large, the food is not healthy, and they have to really drive really far to get them a fresh food market-based farmers market or fresh food market like a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods, or again a local farmers market. They have to drive a considerable way, so a lot of it's not accessible to folks in those communities at large. Again, so folks on an EBT card, I'm assuming, really would have a more and more trouble financially being able to afford healthy items. So speaking on to that food desert comment, her initial comment was a little bit vague. I think she clarified it with her Instagram post saying that she doesn't necessarily think that you should only, eat healthy foods or only be able to get healthy foods with your EBT card, but saying if they allowed you to use your EBT card, when you use your EBT card, you're able to swipe and get healthy foods for free, not taking away from any of your dollars that you have on your EBT card for anything else you would like, but healthy food items are able to be allotted as free for those folks, giving them more incentive to indulge and, create a healthier lifestyle, if you will. But I think the issue with that is that no mammas, mamas, first of all, mind the business that pays you, and poor people's businesses don't pay you. No. And so, I love my good sis, but you got to rip into the people when you got to rip into the people. And I think that statement was just out of her business and out of her frame. And, she's giving me real silver spoon, and it's the silver spoon for me. And I just didn't, we got to give people grace and inform and educate them when they, make statements and they don't realize that, realize the history and the context behind things at large, especially when they're not they've created a realm of privilege for themselves that they are not really able to see at large and in detail the things that folks have to deal with. And I think she was trying to make a good gesture, but it just didn't come across in the right way, because it felt like it very much so a policing of people's eating and people's habits, and just not keeping into account the food deserts that go on in these communities where they don't even have access to fresh groceries, let alone being able to use an EBT card for such. So I just think that's absolutely, I thought it was ridiculous, and I thought, I do think that we need to have more fresh foods and fresh markets and places like that, Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and farmers markets in these communities. I'm a big advocate for that. But again, we have to address that before we can address using an EBT card for these things. Like, we have to address just the problem at hand at large is the fact that we don't even have the access in these communities, let alone anything else further than that. So I think we need to create the access first, and then talking about how we can create ways to give these folks the ability to purchase when they do have the access in their communities. Because these folks gotta, as a person living in New York, Harlem, living in the Upper West Side community, I did have access to Whole Foods, several, or you can go a little bit up to Harlem and you have one. The folks all the way in the Bronx got to come all the way down, or, there's a Trader Joe's real close in the area as well, and etc. But the folks in certain communities didn't really have access, so they got to travel. And I can imagine people in cities where they have to take the bus or cars to get around because, it's a more, spread out community. They don't have fast, transit systems like a New York City subway or something like that. Where they have to drive or get someone to take them, or have to take a bus. And then it's like, so they have to pay to get there, and then they have to figure out how they're going to have the dollars to spend and allocate for food, probably not for just themselves, but for family, kids, etc., everybody that they have to feed, and then be able to find the dollars to be able to, attribute to these healthier items, which are not convenient for folks who may be on an EBT card to do such, because they're on an EBT card, so they do have limited resources, which means they have to be they have to be sparing with their dollars. And a lot of times that's frozen foods and, dry or canned foods that last long and, are not the healthiest, high in sodium, high in everything else. Or are they getting the quick fixes, which is the McDonald's or $2 $4 cheeseburgers and, dollar French fries and all that other nonsense, and the 20 piece, I don't know what goes on in those fast food restaurants, but 20-piece chicken nuggets for $5, all the nonsensical prices, but they're able to feed large families with that. And I think that's what we have to realize. And I think So on one hand, I do think we need to have that access, and on the other hand, I also think we need to be able to recognize the real issue. And I think I think folks, celebrities like that, need to stay out of poor people's business, because she just got herself into a business that don't pay her. That's, you know, how I in my podcast say every week, mind a business that pays you. And I think she got into the business that didn't pay her, and I think that she realized quickly that she needed to retract and just relax, because it's not your business. But anyway, y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think about that good statement. You know, how you feel about her good hypothetical. And let me get into a few more things that folks had to say. You know, some folks were on her side and they said, now before y'all drag her, she may be onto something. Food plays a major role in your mental health and physical health. They put the BS food in our communities for a reason. Meanwhile, the Sprouts, the Whole Foods, and other healthy places are in the other communities, which are in the food, they call the food oasis communities. And then, you know, some other folks had to say, so, you know, some of the other folks who are on her side said, you know, I am convinced that this comment section is made up of a whole bunch of people with reading comprehension skills. She clearly said people with EBT should get healthy foods for free. She did indeed say that. And she said she didn't take anything from anyone or tell anyone what they should buy. She's advocating for people to get more for their money. In quotes, EBT. This is why we stuck. And I think that is interesting. You know, some folks do agree with that. And I think, you know, again, when you're reading context and you put on your reading fundamental skills, you realize that she did clearly give a hypothetical and she didn't take anything away. But I also think it was just stay out of people's business that's not yours, that don't pay you. And I think that's more important. I think, you know, coming from a good silver spoon privilege of Killing the Bee-esque True Jackson VP, lifelong childhood star, arena of life, I just don't think it gives you the access to really try to, police what other folks do and are able to do with their resources, however limited they may be. And I think that's just that on that. It was the Aquila and the Bee for me. That y'all, that took me out. I'm not gonna even hold you. That took me. Ciao. So anyway, moving on. That was that on that. Let's move on. All right, y'all. So I wanted to get into something. You look good doing it for our next segment. Goes out. The Carters been putting in the work. The Carters have been putting in the work. Okay. Beyonce and Peloton collaboration. She announces that in the PR statement that she's honored to partner with Peloton and give HBCU students a 2-year digital membership, which will give them free access to the Peloton app. If you don't know about Peloton, it's a sort of a workout exercise sort of tech sort of company. They have tech equipment of all sorts. Again, geared toward workout and exercise, and then they have some other things in that arena, in that field. So she's partnering with Peloton for HBCUs and giving them that gift. I love that. She said, we believe that the power of music can help uplift, motivate, and inspire those on their fitness journeys. Absolutely love the fitness thing. She dropped her Ivy Park 2 drip, and it was fire. It was lit. I saw the PR packages that folks were getting. I'm trying to get me on the Beyonce PR package list. Okay, sis, period. Because I'm a lifelong stan, as y'all know. She said she's been a Peloton member for several years, and I'm excited to partner with a company that helps people, young and old, be the best versions of themselves in an innovative and adaptable way. Love that, love that, love that. The subscriptions provide access to a full library of fitness classes through the Peloton app. Digital memberships will go to students at Howard University, Spelman, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Bennett College, Hampton, Texas Southern University, Wilberforce University, and Grambling State by the end of November. I absolutely love that. I think her husband, Jay-Z, or maybe they both are, I think they have invested a little bit into Peloton. That's what I saw, some time ago. I don't know if that's still the case, or, fact check me on that in the comments. But I know that I think that they are have some investments in the Peloton app. Either way, it's a great partnership. I think it's a great thing on the back of healthy food and healthy eating. I think, giving college students the access to have fitness classes, especially with a lot of folks not being able to go to college in person these days. And I absolutely love that. I absolutely love Beyonce. She's just doing it in a major way. All the naysayers, going on with your man self. Stay mad with your mad ass. Cause Beyonce's just out here killing it and putting the work in. People have a lot of things to say about a lot of things, but a lot of folks don't put action and put their mouth where the money where their mouth is, and don't put their foots where their mouths were. So I think not the foots with the mouth were. I think she's just put in action. She's just in the action, and I'm a big action person. Like, get it done. Get it done. All the rumors about all the stuff that people felt about her, it don't even matter. She's putting in action in every regard, and she's really zoning in heavily on the Black community and doing what she needs to do. And so I love that. And next on the list for You Look Good Doing It, again, like I said, the Carters are putting in the work, honey, the work. Miss Blue Ivy Carter, the real queen of the Carter household, is narrating the audio book for the book Hair Love by Matthew A. Cherry. I love that. It's a children's book, for the stemming off the back of the Oscar-winning short film Hair Love. And so I absolutely love that. Blue Ivy Carter, she just sounds so adorable on the little clip that they put on the PR statement with it. And she sounds adorable, and I absolutely love that she's doing the narrating the book. The film was already, great, and I'm sure really inspirational for a lot of young kids, especially young Black kids, and with their hair and all the things that, Black kids have to deal with from society at large, about their hair color and their hair texture and the length and all the things that we feel and things we have to do to try to assimilate to societal standards. And I just think that this notion really, really stands out powerfully, especially amongst young people and young folks out there, and young parents who have young children. Read it to your boys and your girls and teach them about hair and texture, and just to love your hair and love all your beauty and your Blackness and your brownness as such. I had a long journey and I had a long journey with, my own hair journey. It's really hard to live in a society, especially in corporate America, where you feel like you have to assimilate to whiteness or as close to whiteness as possible to be successful in those spaces. And I, as someone who's obviously, as if you've been listening to my podcast, who's worked in corporate America as a marketer, from internships in college to, up into present day in corporate America, it's a really, really difficult journey to acknowledge within yourself, always thinking about your hair and what type of hairstyle you're going to have, and should I straighten it, should I put it in like a protective style, and kind of put it back in a pony, or just to keep everything sleek and slick to make everyone feel like you're being professional, not feeling like you wear your natural curly fro or your natural 4C hair fro, whatever it is, out and loud and proud, or you're just your natural hair in its natural texture in whatever state you want to wear it, because of folks deeming it unprofessional. Even though, our counterparts are able to go to their hair in any old kind of way, looking wet as can be, or as dry as can be, oily as can be. It doesn't matter what the texture is, how they come in, and they can look like, and it can be deemed professional and be okay compared to us in their natural state, but our natural state is not professional. And I know that the Hair Act or the Crown Act, thing was passed, and not too long ago, where it's no longer capable, companies and organizations are no longer able to discriminate based on hair texture, color, etc. And that's largely in favor to Black women and men particularly. So I think, the world is trying to progress and we're trying to do better. But again, there's a long history of just the marginalization of Black folks. And I think a lot of people are in denial because they want to be, and they want to live in their rose-colored glasses view of society. And then when people come into their life and tell them like, oh, hey, no, that may be your limited experience, but like the experience of a lot of folks, a lot of demographics of folks are this, and for you to deny that or tell people that it's not true, is a part of the problem. It's a part of, what's going on in America. That's the trouble, and that we're trying to fight every day to overcome. So I love that. I love this representation. Shout out to Blue Ivy Carter. So the hair thing is a really big thing. Right now I'm growing out my locks, and, as a professional, I really toggled for a lot of years with folks telling me, oh, you shouldn't do that, or oh, it doesn't look good, or that's going to look dusty, or people are going to think your hair is dirty, or, you shouldn't do that. What if you want to what if you want to do different styles? Just a lot of folks in all regards, folks I dated, folks I just knew, and family have said these things, and I just always thought about the beautiful Black women that I know, like, that have locks, and I just thought like, they look great, and they look like they're having a great time, and it looks great, and it looks beautiful, and it complements their skin, and it complements just their energy, and I just wanted to embody that, and I always felt connected to the lock journey. But, I had a lot of folks, talk me against it or say very negative things about how they felt or how their family would feel, and especially folks you would date, right? And I always thought, like, that's very, very interesting, and it's no down bashing to anyone, but I think the more we call out people for the way in which they take up space and make them accountable, make ourselves and everyone else around us accountable for the way in which we take up space, it's better for the society when we stay out of denial. Like, when we're in denial, that's helpful to no one. Just because your glasses are rose colored doesn't mean mine are and the rest of the world's are, because just because your glasses are rose colored don't mean the world is actually rose colored. The world's color is the world's color. Your glasses, your personal glasses, is the only ones that's rose colored. So like right now, I got these shades on. They look a little black tinted. So when I put up to the world, it's like everything has a little grayish tint, blackish tint to it. So everything I see looks like that. But when I take it down, it's like, oh no, that's not the color at all. So I think when people say that, it's like, that's not okay. And I think it's more beneficial for us when we start to acknowledge these things in these spaces, right? Hold ourselves accountable for the way in which we realize that we may be very, very ignorant about a lot of different topics, and we may have, ignorance, in meaning the true definition of ignorance, meaning the lack of knowledge, meaning we don't have the knowledge in these spaces, and we need to start to check ourselves and not, not be in denial. That's really the point. That's not to be in denial about the things that people are saying and their experiences in your life and your experiences. Like, just to be transparent and open and respectful of all people and their experiences and the things that you see or that you hear people are saying consistently. Start to respect that, and also respect yourself by learning when someone points something out to you, right? Instead of discrediting their experience. And that's what I've experienced at large, in particularly about my hair journey and me wanting to lock my hair, and then always a constant struggle and frustration with me trying to figure out how I wanted my hair to be in the corporate space, and feeling like, okay, what are people going to say? Is someone going to touch my hair today? Are they going to be like, oh, or is going to be comments on my hair? And it always worked. Like, whether I had a perfecto style, twist or braids, or my own natural hair, my curly fro, I'd have, I don't know what you call it, maybe 4A hair. I don't know. It has a thick, but, curlier, noticeably curlier texture to it. But it's in my natural state, my fro. And I remember going into the office one day and I heard a coworker say, oh, okay. And I was like, is that it? I was trying to figure out where they're going with it, and they had really much to say. I was just kind of stumbling over the words, but trying to figure out a way to communicate about something. And it was regards to my hair because they were looking at it. And I was just like, okay. And just a plethora of other things. I've had folks tell me that my straight hair looks more professional, or look more professional when I straighten my hair. Just a lot of things that just were like, wow, like people don't see themselves. Like, could you imagine saying out loud that to someone like, oh, your hair looks more professional when it's straight? Like, imagine telling a black person like, oh, your hair actually does look more professional when it's straight. I do have to agree. Or, oh yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's what we're doing today. That's what we're doing. That's what we did. Okay, I see what you say. I see what you're saying. I see who you are. And that's no downing to anyone who's said that because, or said things along those lines, because a lot of people don't realize their ignorances until they're pointed out to them, and that's okay. Some of us are more self-aware than others. Some of us are still growing and evolving to be more self-aware folks, right? So I don't judge people, and I don't blame people for the way in which they showed up in spaces in the past. But I do think I point these out to say, in order for us to grow, it's for us to really acknowledge ourselves. And again, my favorite statement is to be accountable for the way in which you take up space, and just that's that on period. So that's my little personal tangent and story. Hopefully, inspires and helps you think about the way in which you take up space in regards to the hair conversation and the things that you may have said in the past that may have hurt folks around you or just been too audacity. Because sometimes it just be the audacity for me. Some folks be having so much audacity that they think they have the nerve to comment on your hair and your hair texture and what you can and cannot do with your hair and how it would or won't look according to standards of beauty and professionalism. Because professionalism obviously is a construct, a social construct, and it's a construct of whiteness and white supremacy. Because professionalism just means white. To me, because anything that's been deemed as non-professional has always seemed to be attributed to black people or people of color, but more particularly black people, and the things in which that may be more generally stereotyped to that community. So, and on the emphasis of hair and how, when you have to put on white voice, so you can't even show up as your authentic self when you speak, because you feel like you got to put on this white voice because folks are going to think that you are illiterate or ignorant or whatever, not professional, because you're not speaking with a white, quote unquote white voice. So there's all these social constructs and these layers of just supremacy and privilege that white folks have, and people that are able to assimilate to whiteness have, and that they perpetuate in the things that they say and do toward people in the Black and brown community at large. So I think we need to start to, hopefully this inspires you to think about the way in which you take up space. And also, if you are a Black and brown person and you did decide, you were thinking about starting those locks or getting that hairstyle, putting your fur out and letting your hair breathe from all those protective styles, and go to work one day and be okay with it and be comfortable and confident in yourself, go do it. You're beautiful. You're smart and you're intelligent, despite no matter what your hair texture is or what your hairstyle is. You are deserving just as anyone else is. You are professional, you're powerful, and you're beautiful. And I want you to know that. And I want you to be inspired to do whatever that hairstyle is that you've been wanting to do it. Because you know what? The integrity of your job should not be on the strength of your hairstyle. If your employers and the people around you can't see that, and the people you're dating or whatever it is, your friends or family can't see that, then that's their business. Go on about your business and be the best version of yourself, because you are going to always be your most authentic self when you do and feel, when you do things that feel authentic to you and your oneness. Let's get into some more fun stuff. You know, I love music, so let's get into some new joints that came out here in these streets within the last time that I've talked to you all. You know, despite the election and everything, I didn't get into music last week. But let's get into my November week 2 playlist. All right, so I'm gonna link to my playlist on my YouTube channel. So for those of you in audio, if you want to link to my playlist, go over to my YouTube page where you'll see the video for this podcast, and you'll see linked there the playlist that coincides with the music that I talk about in this episode. So Queen Naija's, you know, her album was really quite fire, I will have to say. Some of the standout songs to me were Pack Light, which used the Erykah Badu sample. Chef's Kiss, she did it perfectly. There's been a lot of artists that dropped projects actually in the last year, in the 2020 quarantine, who've used an Erykah Badu sample. And a lot of time I'm just like, okay, if I see a certain title kind of leading to the fact that they may be using a sample, I may listen to it, and then I'm like, okay, they are using the sample. And then I'm just disappointed, because like, you can't be mixing greatness and legendariness and just not doing it justice. But shout out to Erykah for clearing those samples either way, and giving the new generation of music folks the opportunity to be inspired. So, but Queen Naija was one of my favorite samples of Erykah Badu that I've heard in the last few projects from folks that just did it justice. The flow, vocal performance was amazing. Just the production of it all. Amazing lyrical content, very on par with her and very on brand with her. So I absolutely loved it. Okay, so you know, the next song is Dream featuring Lucky Day on the Queen Naija project. It's just if anybody's not familiar with him, he's just vocally, he just floats and just gives you this floaty, just like just good vibe, good energy, and I just love the way he approaches music, and I absolutely love. I stand him. I stand these folks. I don't really stand these people. That's just my word that I say. I don't really like celebrities that much. I think I probably only stand like Beyonce and Victoria Monet at this point, and Kehlani. I think those are the 3 people that I stand like for real, and you know, just on my business after that. But anyway, Lucky Day, I absolutely love his music. I love his collaboration with Queen Naija on this song. Perfect collaboration. Vocal performance by both of them was amazing. The production overall, it was catchy. It made you feel in your feels a little bit. It was just a good vibe, and it was a perfect vibe for both of them, and they both executed very, very well. And sometimes, again, people that are big names, they're featured on some things, and they don't really align with the song or the artist that well, and the performance doesn't really feel like it clicks that much for me. So then I'm like, okay, I love this artist and the person that's featured, but I don't like the collaboration. This was a great collaboration. Lie to Me was another song in Queen Naija's project. She had a few gems on here, about 5 solid gems that were like 10 out of 10 songs for me. Lie to Me featuring Lil Durk, definitely a radio record. Great performance from both of those folks. Catchy song, great production, great local content. Again, very on brand. The whole album was very, very on brand and very, very cohesive for me. And so shout out to Lil Durk featured on that Lie to Me Queen Naija record. Bitter was another record featuring Mulatto. I've spoken about her before. I love me some Mulatto. Love her energy. It wasn't my favorite song, but I loved Mulatto's execution. Mulatto's execution on the song rose at a few points for me, because it was just a very generic radio bop, and I was like, okay, you can hear it on the radio, but it it wasn't the 10 out of 10 for me. It wasn't even 8 out of 10. It was probably like a 7 or 6 out of 10 right for me because of the radio performance I feel like it could have. But Mulatto's, again, performance executed it very, very well. One Time featuring Tusi was the last song on the project from Queen Naija for me that was like 10 out of 10. Both Tusi and Queen Naija did great vocal performance, great lyrical content, great flow, cadence. Overall production of the song was amazing, start to finish. Is one of those things that as soon as it comes in, you're going to feel it, and it's going to be a good bop. It's going to be a good energy, and I think she did a solid body of work from her. I didn't have too much high expectation for her. I really don't care about her music or her catalog or her story at all, but she exceeded my expectations. I didn't have any, so she exceeded them, to say the least. So shout out to Queen Naija for that project, solid project. The next is the good sis, Ariana Grande. I'm pointing her out because y'all know, if y'all listen to my podcast, I've talked about the good sis, the illustrious Victoria Monet. I love my good sis Victoria Monet, and her pen was penning on this project by Ariana Grande. So I had to get into some songs just to see how my good sis executed. Because anything you love by Ariana Grande most likely was written by in partnership with Victoria Monet. So Positions on the album was the radio single that dropped. Solid song. I absolutely loved it. Very, very catchy. Love Language. West Side is a standout for me. It gives you, I can't not hear Victoria Monet. Now that I've dug into her catalog, I can't not hear her on this song. And it just seems like she penned it. You could tell she penned it. As soon as it came on, Victoria was one of the people that penned it on, and I had to look, and I was like, oh yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Because my ear is my ear, and I was like, okay, absolutely. So West Side is a chef's kiss on this album. She had a few gems. Nasty was a good one. Standout song. 60-30 was a solid song. And POV was a good song for me too. So I'm gonna link my curated playlist for today's from today's podcast, along with some additionals that I may not get into because I don't want to get into too deep and heavy and all the things that I like that came out within the last few weeks. Some are very, very new. Some are maybe not so new, but they're new enough, right? Wizkid, next album. Oh my God. Chef's Kiss. Absolutely a phenomenal project by Wizkid. Made in Lagos. Long Time featuring Skepta was a standout. Skepta, always floats. Mighty Wine was a standout. No Stress was obviously, I think he dropped that as a single previously, way before. But even if you haven't heard it, it's on the album anyway. So No Stress is a standout record. It's the radio record. It's the record that's probably going to get a lot of spins. It's a good club record too. Unfortunately, we can't get to the clubs. Well, besides everybody in Atlanta, everybody outside of Atlanta, we can't, in Florida, we can't get into the clubs, but No Stress is one of those records. It's just one of those records. As soon as it comes on, you can hear the influence, the some of the sampling lyrically from what's that record? Is that, this is one thing that got me tripping? Is that Amory or yeah, Amory? I believe that's her. Y'all can fact check me on that in the comments. But that No Stress record is a vibe. True Love. A vibe. Sweet One was the last vibe for me, overall. Because I'm talking about 10. I'm not talking about the records that are like 7 out of 10 on the rating scale for me and below. Like that, those are not the things that I call at a large, unless they have like great radio presence. Then I even if it's 7 out of 10, then I'll put it on there. But the records that are like a 10 out of 10 for me are those the ones that I just named. And my girl Yendri dropped El Diablo. Y'all know I have an affinity for Yendri, and I think this is her third record that's out there on the streets for you to listen to. So El Diablo is a solid record for me. It was an 8 out of 10 for me, but it was good enough for me to throw to the playlist. But again, there's some other Latin artists and some other music that I'm putting on this playlist for y'all to tune into. I know a lot of folks don't have Apple Music for some reason. I'm not sure why, but y'all should get onto it. I know it takes a lot of more curation for Apple Music because you have to really be on top of the music you put out, and you have to really be intentional about your playlist because it's not like a Spotify and Pandora where they just kind of have playlist artist stations, which I think they do, but here on Apple Music, but Spotify and Pandora are more the leaders in this space. This is definitely for the folks who just like to curate their own playlists, I think. But anyway, I'll have it linked to Apple Music. At least you can look through it. And check out what you like, and let me know your thoughts on my playlist for this week. Okay, y'all, that's all I have for this week. I thank y'all for tuning in to the Curated Relevance podcast. And before I end this episode, I also want to give a special shout out to the veterans. By the time you hear and or see this podcast, it'll have been Veterans Day already. And I just want to give a special shout out and thanks to those folks who have served in any and all capacity across all regards, across industries and spectrums, child. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, to my YouTube channel, Curated Relevance TV. And I'll see y'all next week. All right, peace, y'all.
Fuck yours, hoes, I'm on my own shit. Fuck yours, hoes, I'm on my own shit.